Well, one thing I didn't know until I got to Vegas is that Vegas was like one of 4 or 5 Mormon colonies that basically were stops along a path from Salt Lake to the West Coast. Because I think Vegas was one, St. George, there may have been a few others. And so it was a Mormon colony that started Las Vegas. But from what I understand, right around the 1920s, that's kind of when the mob came in and sort of it started to change into what it is today, where it's casinos and things like that. And so I don't know, that surprised me. But the church in Vegas is, I should say, the church members in Vegas probably rival any members anywhere. I mean, they are just super strong, and I think it's out of necessity, because if you are wavering even a little bit, there are so many things that can pull you away from the church that you're toast if you're not solid. And so all of the members are super solid. The LDS population in Las Vegas, I think the last number I heard is 1 in 13. And so about 7 or 8% of Vegas, and of Vegas specifically, is LDS. If you go up kind of northern Nevada, it's much higher. You get into areas like Mesquite and Elko, it's closer to 40-50%, kind of like Provo, that kind of thing. And so because of that, I think it's a great blend of having non-members and members, because you have this really strong member base, but then there's all of these non-members that know about the church, and so that just made for a very successful mission. I think Las Vegas West, and then the Salt Lake missions kind of go back and forth in terms of the highest number of baptisms. While we were there, we would probably average about 120 to 150 baptisms a month. At our peak, we were hitting 200, and so it's a very successful in terms of teaching people and talking to people. And a lot of the work, as a missionary, a lot of the work you would do would be with members to find either referrals or to find what we called part member families, where there would be, a member of the church that was either active or inactive, but was married to someone that was not a member of the church. And those generally would be our finding sources. But I also found that tracting in Las Vegas was very effective. A lot of people hate tracting, they don't think it's effective, but in Vegas, I consider tracting as finding referrals that members hadn't given to you yet. Because everybody in Las Vegas either was a member, was married to a member, or at least knew a member of the church. And so you could find, like, every person that we talked to or taught while tracting, we would always try to get somebody that they knew and bring them to the discussion, and have them help us teach them. I remember, I found a lot of families through tracting. It's very effective. So, those missionaries that when you're going to Vegas, don't let anybody tell you that tracting isn't effective, because it's very effective. So yeah, we did a lot of tracting. We did a lot of member work. There's one temple in Las Vegas. It's the Las Vegas Temple. It was in my mission, so that was great. There was a time when we could go every week to the temple, and it was awesome. And you'd go on P-Day, but then they changed it to go where your zone could go once once a transfer, which was every 6 weeks, which was great. And the Las Vegas Temple is beautiful. It's beautiful. The church in Las Vegas is very established. I mean, it's been there for years. And so you would generally have a lot of, I mean, like I said, it's very similar to Provo. I mean, not quite as concentrated as Provo or Salt Lake, but you'd have very strong branches, very strong wards. And within those stakes, you would have 1 or 2 Spanish-speaking wards. And so there were missionaries that spoke Spanish. I don't think there were any other, excuse me, I don't think there were any other missionaries that spoke different languages there. It was mainly Spanish. There may have been some Polynesian branches there, that, and they just spoke English. But halfway through my mission, the Spanish missionaries would be a part of our zone. Like, we would have, 1 or 2 sets of Spanish-speaking missionaries. But then at the end, they changed it so that all of the Spanish-speaking missionaries had their own zone. And so we didn't interact with them as much. And so while I was in Las Vegas, I did pick up some Spanish just out of necessity, because we would knock on the door, and in some areas there would be every other house would be Hispanic household, and so I developed my Spanish door approach, just to basically get a referral that I could give to the Spanish-speaking missionaries. And I remember in one area, it was a small geographic area, and I remember I tracked it out twice, but I had note cards where I wrote basically the reaction of all of the people, and I either said not interested or interested or whatever, and then I'd indicate whether they're Spanish speaking or not. And so I gave that to the Spanish missionaries, and they were like, "Oh, this is awesome," because they had the same, they basically had the same problem I did, because they would knock and it would be an American speaking person, and that's not what they were focused on. So I don't know when it was split into the 2 missions, but I know that the Nevada, Las Vegas North mission was created probably in the past 5 years. And so when I was there, the 2 missions were basically created by splitting Nevada in half through I-15, because I-15 and basically Las Vegas Boulevard, that split Vegas in half, and then you followed it up, and it would split Nevada in half. And so our mission, we covered, Henderson, Green Valley, Boulder City, and then even Needles, California, which kind of came below, and then what was it called? Bullhead, Arizona, and that was like the hottest part in the world. I mean, it would easily get to 130 degrees there. So, but then you'd go up north, and we covered Mesquite and Elko and Ely, and then we'd go all the way up to the Idaho border. On the West mission, they would cover basically, the west side of Vegas, Summerlin, which is a very nice area, and then they would cover Reno, and Reno has a temple. And then the North mission, I'm not sure what the boundaries are for the North mission, but maybe they covered kind of the northern part of Vegas. I don't know. I'm not sure. Las Vegas Metro, the metro area, and that includes Green Valley and Henderson. They're very similar, because I mean, it's tourism and hotels and casinos that drives the economy there. I mean, that is the industry in those areas. And so a lot of the members there, that's what they did. I mean, they would either work for the casinos directly or work for some kind of supplier, and so it's kind of a weird thing, because we have a stance on gambling, but in order to live in Vegas, you had to. I mean, there was no other industry. And so I knew guys I knew one guy, he was the CFO of the Bellagio. I knew one guy that owned Castaways Casino. And so, yeah, there was kind of an interesting sort of dynamic there. But they were active members of the church, and they understood where the church stood, and they understood that, and they just kind of kept a respectful distance from kind of the gambling part of it. So